This is the Precious Metals Briefing with Jerry Williams. Safeguard your money.
Welcome to another edition of the Precious Metals Briefing. I'm Tony Famino with Jerry Williams, the founder and vice president of American Precious Metals in Arizona. And we are all dealing with this COVID crisis. Gold investing actually is surging during this crisis. And today, you will discover the benefits of precious metals investing during this crisis. And Jerry, we've talked about it, and I know others have talked about it. Sometimes it's hard to see when you're in the middle of a crisis, but every crisis presents opportunities also. So why have gold sales actually spiked during this crisis?
That's a good question. Everyone is wondering that as well. What you have to realize is, though, that this market was moving before the crisis. If you look at a year ago, gold was $1,287 a year ago this month, $1,287 an ounce. It ended the year in 2019 at $1,560 an ounce. Now today we're looking at $1,750, nearly $200 higher from the first of the year, and yet the COVID crisis really hit its peak in about March. So why was gold peaking even before that, and now it's gotten worse ever since, has to do with the monetary policy of the government. Everyone forgets that we had a bank crisis with overnight lending starting last fall, where the Fed had to create these billions of dollars just so banks could lend to each other overnight. That crisis was about to explode in March at the same time this COVID crisis hit. So it's sort of a coincidence, really. The banking crisis is on hold because now the banks don't need that money anymore because the economy is tanking because of the crisis. So, but at the same time that's happening, now we have an even greater increase in money supply due to the funding of unemployment and bailing out businesses and all that, and trillions of dollars more than we would have it otherwise. So that's the reason that where we are right now, and it looks like we're going to be going a lot higher.
And Jerry, this is where it always seems to start too. When we talk about precious metals investing, specifically gold and silver, we always talk about the fiat currency, the paper money, let's say the US dollar. So again, I always like to start from the basics. What actually is the definition of money?
Well, the definition of money, according to Aristotle, well, there are 5 attributes that money should have. The first, of course, is that it's a medium of exchange. So you and I can exchange pieces of paper instead of having to barter for goods and services. So first, it's a medium of exchange. And secondly, and maybe most importantly, it has to be a store of value. It has to be valuable, and it has to be durable, too. It also has to be portable. It has to be divisible. There are a number of other things. But so we have the whole equation backwards nowadays. We tend to view money as dollar bills because we've been conditioned to think that a dollar is money. And back in 1933, a dollar was money because it had a gold reserve behind it. Every dollar was worth a 20th of an ounce of gold, and then they valued it and made it a 35th of an ounce of gold. And then by 1971, we broke that tie to the dollar entirely, and then we became a fiat currency. And I looked at the definition of fiat, thinking, well, fiat must be substitute or fake money or something. No, the word for fiat is decree or a mandate, which means that it's an edict. We trust us, this is money. And on the dollar bills that you carry around today, it says this is legal tender for all debts, public and private. The old money used to say there was on deposit at the Treasury an amount of gold for this bill. But the new bills are basically an IOU nothing because there is no gold behind it. So
it's just
we
an
have
edict.
The government, we have a money substitute.
Yeah, so the government says we're declaring this a money. That's it.
That's right. It's money because we say so.
Because they say so. And so what all of us have seen, again, in this COVID crisis, the last 2 to 3 months, the U.S. government has taken that fiat money that you discussed, as you just told us about, this idea that we declare this to be money, and they're printing trillions of dollars in bailout money. And it's hard to even get your head around it. And as we speak now, our government keeps talking about we've got even more coming, trillions and trillions of this paper money. How is this printing of trillions and trillions of dollars, so much in such a, right now, relatively short amount of time, how is this impacting precious metals investing?
Well, everything's going up. It is primarily not everything, but most of the commodities are actually weakening, like oil, for example, copper, aluminum, platinum, palladium are all down, things that industry uses. But gold and silver, having the monetary characteristics, are going up because not just in this country, but around the world now. Every country is on some kind of fiat currency, and we are the strongest of the fiat currencies, which means that other countries are buying our currency. That's one of the reasons that we had a currency shortage going into the year, trying to meet the demand from foreign countries to get out of their currencies into ours. Now, I usually say that our currency is like the cleanest dirty shirt in the laundry. Just because we're strong against another currency doesn't mean it's really strong. When you create trillions of dollars at will like this, you basically devalue the money that we already have in existence, the money in our bank accounts and our wallets. It buys less and less because there's just too much money.
Is this inflation? Is that what you're describing? Is that basically inflation?
The basic definition of inflation is an increase in the money supply. We tend to think of it, though, as the increase in the cost of living, and that is the result of an increase in the money supply. But yes, that's right. That's what inflation is, and we're going to see it big time like we've never seen before in this country.
And you and I and many others have talked about how gold and precious metals investing is a hedge specifically against inflation. Can you explain that?
Yes, it goes back to, I think the Chinese were the ones that invented paper money way back even before our current calendar. But Aristotle, of course, in 300 BC made that definition of money. And it had to be something that was durable. And of course, paper or cotton or plastic or whatever you make your bills out of has a life. You know, it can be burned, it can be eaten by moths or whatever. But the worst offender is that it can be easily duplicated. You can't just do that with gold. It has to be mined out of the ground at an expensive cost, and people have to trust it.
And you mentioned the mining. Are they able to keep mining gold during this COVID crisis, or like a lot of businesses, have they been shut down so there's just not as much gold being produced?
Well, there is the peak in gold output has occurred maybe 10 years ago. We've been declining in the gold output every year. And with this crisis now, you've had mines that have shut down. There's a palladium mine in South Africa shut entirely. All the workers were too sick to work. And that's happened too at the U.S. Mint, for example. Both the U.S. and the Canadian mints were shut, no longer producing coins due to the illness. Now they've started back up again, but there for a couple of months, there were no coins being produced in Canada or the U.S.
And so how does that affect you? I know that you've got people that are trying to buy, or they're trying to, or even in the case, maybe they're trying to sell. If the production, we hear a lot about production chains and how you're going to actually get all kinds of products, whether it's something like toilet paper or if it's something like actual gold. How has that impacted American precious metals in Arizona?
Well, the premiums are up, and the delivery times from the mint, of course, when they're shut, you can't get anything. So you have to depend on the existing supply between buying and selling. And in a market like this, believe it or not, you don't have a lot of people selling their gold. They see it going up and they figure they'll just hold on to it. So we're not getting secondary input off the market to supply. We're having to wait until the mints can gear up and then get things to us in a day or two like they used to. Some of them have wait times as long as 6 weeks.
So gold,
and then of course the prices go up too.
Yeah, so gold is no different than right now. Beef is not as available as it was a month ago, or as we mentioned, everybody talks about toilet paper. It's no different. Gold has been impacted by COVID, and it's scarcer right now.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, there's a shortage, and therefore the premiums go up. There's always a price at which somebody will let go of gold. It may not be at the posted price on television. That's a problem too, because people see the price on TV and then they go to buy it. Suddenly it's $120 more, and they can't figure that out. But there really is a shortage of gold between suppliers and buyers on the futures exchange. Now this gets pretty complicated, but between London and New York, where the major trades are made, you can have a disparity of as much as $100, $120 an ounce. And you would think, well, I'll just buy it cheap in New York and sell it in London. It doesn't quite work that way because first off, you have a delivery time that's a month out, and then everyone has to settle. And you're trusting that when you buy a 100-ounce contract, that if you want to take delivery of it, it'll be there. But now the fear is that maybe there's just not enough gold, and maybe people are trading certificates instead of the physical metal. And so there's a distrust out there in the market about the actual physical supply of gold against all the paper contracts and receipts.
So, and Jerry, I would think this too. So, and again, for the purposes, maybe people are listening to this for the very first time. There's the ETFs, that's the paper gold that you're talking about. And then, of course, there's the actual physical gold where you own the physical gold, a bar or a coin in your hand. For people like me, layman, again, what's the difference between, say, paper gold, and then I think we know what physical gold is, but what's paper gold again?
Well, an ETF, which stands for Exchange Traded Fund, it means that the exchange is going to keep an amount of gold stored for you to back up your shares. Now, you can't take delivery of that gold. That's one of the rules. You can only buy or sell it on the exchange with your broker. And you are trusting that for every share you have, for every 10 shares you have, there's an ounce of gold stored on the exchange. It's supposed to be physical gold, but you don't really know for sure if they have an actual ounce of gold there, or is this a certificate for an ounce of gold on an exchange or in a depository someplace else?
So one of the risks is you got to be able to trust your middleman, like you said. You don't really know. There's got to be some trust if you got paper gold.
Yeah, I repeat this philosophy just about every day to somebody. My theory is that if you don't hold it, you don't own it. Someone else owns it and gives you a receipt for it. That's not the same as physical ownership.
Yeah, and we're in such an unusual time where all economies, we're in areas that we've just had nothing to compare it to. Everything from just mom and pop businesses all the way up to the stock market to what the Fed is doing. And so, have you seen in the last 2 to 3 months with this COVID crisis? Have you seen people saying, you know what, I want to cash in my paper gold. I want to get my money back out of that because I want money.
I wouldn't see that because I'm not in that business, but I do see people selling us, of course, gold that they bought, say, 5 years ago, and they're taking a nice profit. Or if they bought it, say, 9 years ago, they're maybe just breaking even. Because we did have a downdraft there for about 4 years, and we've been in a recovery phase since the beginning of 2016, when gold was just over $1,000, and now it's pushing 2,000. It's almost 1,800 just right now. So yeah, people are selling, but the way we're going now with this crisis, what we've seen up until March of this year, people selling, giving up. They need money, or they're giving up. They don't think it's going to go back to where they were even. Well, that all ended when this crisis started. Now suddenly everyone's just hanging on to the gold they have, and now we're seeing net buyers over sellers.
If you are able to buy some physical gold, how has storage changed, or has there been a change of if you've got considerable amounts and you want to store it somewhere? How has that been impacted by COVID?
I'm not sure that has had an effect as much as some of the changes, like the banks, for example. One large bank has a requirement now that they will not, you have to agree if you open a box with them that you won't hold precious metals in the box, nor will you hold cash or firearms or ammunition, or all sorts of restrictions. Not all the banks are like that, but just one. They have a form you have to fill out that says you agree to it. And there's
what are they worried
if they
about?
Find out you violated that,
right.
Well, then you've got some problems.
Why would at least this one bank, why would it suddenly be worried about you storing gold inside their bank?
Well, I don't know the reasoning. All I know is that that's, the banks are basically all controlled by the federal government, with the Federal Reserve. So there could be a test policy to discourage it. For one thing, if you put a lot of silver in a box, it's heavy. And let's say you got a little 100-pound girl that has to go in there and get the box for you and drops it on her foot. There's a liability there.
Right.
So it's really, you're better off if you have something heavy to make sure it's on the bottom row of boxes, or find some private storage. Now, there is a very reliable place here in Phoenix called the Mountain Vault. We send a lot of people there It's insured, by the way, which the bank deposit boxes are not. You're just renting the space.
So there are still good places that are still open. They're still running. You just have to do your research, and you got to make sure you can trust the storage facility, especially in this time where things are getting different. Things are changing every day almost.
Yes, that's true. People ask me about home storage. I have some private ideas about that. An installed safe, it's bolted to the floor, that kind of thing. It doesn't necessarily protect you against a home invasion when you're home and somebody holds a gun to your hand and says, open a safe. I would assume that somebody knows you have a safe. So if you do have one, you have to be very quiet about it and not tell anybody.
So, Jerry, also with COVID, people are not able to travel like they used to do just 2 or 3 months ago. The availability to travel is not as easy as it was. In some places, you can't just walk into stores or walk out of stores without some type of regulations. Have you found that more people are they're doing it over the phone, or they're doing it on they're getting their information online? Have the customers used different tools to try to do their transactions, or just to get education about precious metals investing?
Yeah, interesting you would ask that, because what we've noticed is our out-of-state calls have increased and our in-house traffic has kind of declined because of people are staying at home. Now, we've been considered an essential industry, so we've been open. In fact, our hours haven't changed at all. Our hours are actually better than the banks, and our access is easier than some of the banks too. So, but we've seen a lot of people from places like Atlanta, Georgia, Florida, Texas. People call in, and of course we'll put the metal in the mail by registered insured mail, and it gets directly to their front door.
Okay, so you can buy precious metals over the phone or over the internet. You don't have to necessarily be in person. You can ship it, and you can handle the transactions from a distance if people feel more comfortable to stay at home and not travel, for instance.
We do that. We do it all over the country, and we have a system worked out where somebody can make a direct deposit into our account, and once our funds are cleared and they're there, we ship right away.
Yeah.
Registered insured mail, that's what we use. We don't use UPS or FedEx. But registered insured mail, we've had very good success. You can send up to $50,000 insured anywhere in the country, and we ship all over the country.
So your final words to people that may be listening right now, that they're saying, man, I don't know what my 401k looks like. I don't know what my retirement looks like. I don't even know what the economy looks like. Where can they get good information or continue their education about specifically precious metals in this time when there seems to be so many questions?
We do a lot of conversions, IRA conversions to precious metals IRAs. We have the forms can be downloaded online from newdirectionira.com, or you can look on our website. It's apmaz.com, and information about requirements and some restrictions. They have to be IRS approved. Obviously, the depository and the custodian need to be IRS approved. You can't just take delivery of the precious metals and say it's an IRA. It has to be IRS regulated. But we do a lot of those.
Very good. All right, Jerry, this I think is helpful to people dealing with this crisis. I mean, again, trying to make sense of what's going on. I always like your line too. I like to end our programs on your favorite line about he who owns the gold.
You want me to quote the Wizard of Id?
Yeah.
Yeah, his rule is he who has the gold makes the rules.
You've been listening to the Precious Metals Briefing with Jerry Williams. To learn more about safeguarding your money, go to apmaz.com or call 800-522-GOLD.